Lost to the city's hardships years ago, Laura decided to assist Daniel. She approached him with a kind smile and offered him a warm meal and a chance to clean up. Daniel, initially wary and skeptical due to countless rejections, accepted Laura's invitation with appreciation. Laura led Daniel to her humble two-bedroom abode, prepared a warm bath for him, and provided clean clothes that once belonged to her late husband. While Daniel bathed, Laura hurried to the market to fetch additional groceries. Hello, welcome, enjoy, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Upon her return, Laura was startled to find a police car outside her home. Her heart pounded as panic set in. Two officers stood at the door, speaking with Daniel, who appeared uneasy and was attempting to clarify the situation. Laura approached rapidly and demanded in a resolute tone what was occurring. The officers explained that a concerned neighbor had reported a stranger at her home. Indignant, Laura defended Daniel, explaining her invitation for him to bathe and dine. Sensing Laura's honesty and Daniel's circumstances, the officers apologized for the disturbance and departed. Laura then turned to Daniel, who was visibly rattled by the incident. She soothed him and encouraged him to share his story. Daniel revealed he was a war veteran who, after returning, suffered severe trauma, leading him to lose his family, his home, and eventually his dignity. He had spent years on the streets, ignored and treated as invisible. Moved by compassion, Laura resolved to not only offer Daniel a temporary refuge, but also assist him in rebuilding his life. She supported him in seeking treatment for his trauma and helped him secure employment. Over time, Daniel began to regain his self-esteem and reintegrate into society. The tale of Laura and Daniel spread throughout the neighborhood, inspiring others to act with more compassion and less prejudice. Their bond strengthened, and together, they demonstrated that love and understanding could transform lives. As they established a routine, Laura would depart for work at the local grocery store early each morning, while Daniel remained at home, aiding with household chores and beginning his physical recovery. In the evenings, they exchanged stories, forging an ever-stronger bond. Initially reticent, Daniel gradually began to trust Laura, opening up about the horrors he faced in the war and the emptiness upon his return. Laura, in turn, shared memories of her brother Michael, whose loss still profoundly affected her. One night, Laura returned home with a stack of papers. "Daniel, I found some options for clinics that offer treatment for veterans. It might be good for you to consider this," she said with an encouraging smile. Daniel perused the papers carefully. "Thank you, Laura. I appreciate everything you're doing for me, but I don't even know where to start." "You don't have to do this alone. I'll be here to help," Laura responded, holding Daniel's hand. Gradually, Daniel began to attend a local clinic that provided psychological treatment and support for veterans. Over time, he made significant progress in regaining his self-esteem and hope. One day, while tidying the house, Laura discovered an old family photo. She gazed at the image of Michael, her younger brother, and felt a surge of sadness. She decided then to share another part of her story with Daniel. "Daniel, I need to tell you something about my brother Michael. He disappeared many years ago. Whenever I see someone homeless, I think of him," Laura said, her voice trembling. Daniel looked at the photo and recognized a familiar face. "Laura, I think I've seen your brother. He was on the streets in a nearby city a few years ago." Laura was shocked. "Are you sure? How was he?" "I don't know where he is now, but he was alive the last time I saw him." "It seemed he was looking for someone," Daniel replied with a tone of sadness. Laura felt a mix of hope and fear. If Michael was still alive, she needed to find him, but where to start? Daniel, seeing Laura's determination, decided to help her in her search. Together, they began to gather information about Michael. They visited shelters, spoke with social workers, and posted flyers around the city. The search was exhausting, but Laura didn't give up. Each small clue brought a new breath of hope. One rainy afternoon, while walking through the city streets, they met a man who knew Michael. He told them that Michael was living in a nearby shelter but was very ill. Laura and Daniel rushed to the shelter, feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. When they arrived, they were led to a small room where Michael lay. Laura could hardly believe her eyes. Her brother was there, frail and weakened but still recognizable. "Michael, it's me, Laura. I'm here, she said, tears in her eyes. Michael slowly opened his eyes, recognizing his sister's voice. Laura, is it really you? He asked weakly. Yes, it's me. I came to get you. You're going to be okay now, Laura replied. Holding Michael's hand, Daniel watched the scene, feeling deep gratitude. He knew that despite his own challenges, he had found a family and a purpose with Laura. With her help, Michael was transferred to a hospital where he received the necessary care. Gradually, he began to recover, and the relationship between the siblings was rebuilt. Laura continued to support Daniel in his recovery while also taking care of Michael. The presence of the two men in her life brought a new dynamic, and she felt that she was finally beginning to find peace. Inspired by Laura's determination, Daniel decided he wanted to do more to give back the help he had received. He began looking for a job, determined to reintegrate into society. With Laura's help, he secured an interview at a local small business. Are you ready for this? Laura asked on the day of the interview. Daniel nodded confidently. Yes, I am. And no matter what happens, I'm grateful to you for giving me this chance. The interview was a success and Daniel got the job. He returned home with a smile on his face, feeling that he was finally on the right track. Laura and Daniel continued to work together, helping not only Michael but also other people in the community. Their story spread, inspiring others to be more compassionate and to help those in need. The bond between Laura and Daniel grew stronger every day. They proved that with love and understanding, it was possible to transform lives and find redemption. Over time, the routine of Laura, Daniel, and Michael stabilized. Daniel was adapting well to his new job, and Michael, though still frail, was showing signs of recovery. The small circle of friendship and support they had formed became a source of strength for all. One afternoon, as Daniel was returning from work, he decided to stop at a local cafe. He sat in a quiet corner, enjoying a rare moment of peace. That's when he heard someone mention the name Megan. Daniel turned, intrigued. Megan was the name of his daughter, whom he hadn't seen in years. He approached the table where two women were talking. Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear. You mentioned a Megan. May I ask who you're talking about? The women looked at Daniel, a bit surprised, but they saw his sincerity. One of them replied, Megan is my niece. She lives here in the city but has been going through tough times since her mother passed away. Why do you ask? Daniel felt a wave of emotions. Could it be the same Megan? His Megan? With his heart racing, he asked, Please, could you give me more information? I'm her father. I lost touch with her years ago. The women were shocked, but one of them, recognizing the genuine anguish in Daniel's eyes, decided to help. She gave him Megan's address, hoping he really was who he said he was. Daniel rushed home, agitated. He found Laura in the kitchen and told her what had happened. Laura, I think I found a lead on my daughter. We need to go to this address. Laura, always ready to help, grabbed the car keys. They drove to the older part of the city, where the houses seemed laden with stories and memories. When they reached the address, Daniel hesitated. Laura, sensing his nervousness, squeezed his hand. We'll go together, Daniel. No matter what happens, we're here for you. They approached the door and knocked. A young woman opened it, with eyes that immediately reminded Daniel of his late wife. Megan? He asked, his voice trembling. The young woman looked at him, confused but with growing curiosity. Yes, I'm Megan. Who are you? I'm your father, Daniel. I know I've been gone for many years, but I've come back to find you. Megan stepped back, surprised and skeptical. My father disappeared years ago. How do I know you're really him? Daniel pulled a crumpled photo from his pocket. It was an old photo of Megan, him, and his wife, taken when she was just a child. This was our family. Your mother took this picture on your 6th birthday. You had just gotten the doll you wanted so much. Megan looked at the photo, and a mix of emotions overwhelmed her. Forgotten memories began to resurface, and she felt a tightness in her heart. Dad, she said, tears in her eyes. They embraced, both crying. Laura, watching the scene, felt a deep joy. Another life was being transformed. Megan told her story. After Daniel disappeared, life became very difficult for her and her mother. They moved several times, and her mother never got over the loss. Megan ended up alone when her mother passed away, struggling to stay afloat. "I'm so sorry for everything you went through, Megan. I was lost, but now I'm here, and I promise I'll never leave you alone again," Daniel said with renewed firmness. In the days that followed, Daniel and Megan began to rebuild their relationship. Laura, always present, helped strengthen this new family bond. However, a new challenge emerged. One day, while Laura was at work, a tall, imposing man entered the grocery store. He seemed out of place with a cold, calculating look. Laura tried to stay calm as she served him, but something about the man made her uneasy. "I need to talk to you, Laura," he said with an authoritative voice. "Sorry, do I know you?" she asked, trying to hide her apprehension. "You don't know me, but I know you. And I know you're helping Daniel. My name is Richard." Daniel witnessed something he shouldn't have seen, and I'm here to make sure he doesn't cause trouble. Laura felt a chill down her spine. "What do you mean?" Richard smiled, but there was no warmth in his smile. "Just tell Daniel I'm in town, and that he should stay silent about what he saw, or there will be consequences." Laura stood in silence, watching Richard leave. She felt a mix of fear and worry. When she got home, she found Daniel and Megan. She told them what had happened, and Daniel turned pale. "Richard was my ex-partner. He was involved in dirty business, and I found out. He tried to silence me, and when I fled, my life fell apart." Laura held Daniel's hand. "We need to do something. We can't let him intimidate us." Daniel knew that facing Richard meant taking a risk, but with Laura and Megan by his side, he felt stronger. They decided to go to the police, tell the whole story, and ask for protection. Daniel, Laura, and Megan's decision to report Richard brought a new wave of tension but also community support. Their courage inspired others to speak out, and the police began an investigation into Richard's activities. Daniel, Laura, and Megan would face challenges together, but now they were united by bonds of love and courage. Each day was a new battle, but also a new opportunity to show that redemption and justice were possible. The decision to go to the police brought new tensions to the lives of Laura, Daniel, and Megan. The following days were a mix of uncertainty and hope. The police, realizing the seriousness of the accusations against Richard, placed the family under protection. However, the shadow of the threat persisted. One morning, while preparing coffee, Laura looked at Daniel, who was sitting at the table, leafing through a newspaper. His expression was worried, and Laura knew that the pressure was mounting. She approached and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We'll get through this together, Daniel. We have the police and our community on our side," she said, trying to convey confidence. Daniel looked at her, grateful. "I know, Laura, but I fear what Richard might do. He's dangerous." Megan, who had been listening to the conversation, joined them. "Dad, we have to be strong. I lost you once, and I don't want to lose you again. We need to fight." Megan's determination was contagious. Daniel nodded, determined not to let fear control them. He knew the battle wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face Richard. That afternoon, Daniel received a call from the detective in charge of the case. The investigation was progressing, and the police had found substantial evidence against Richard. The detective suggested that Daniel, Laura, and Megan appear in court to testify. The day of the trial came quickly. Laura, Daniel, and Megan sat on the witness stand, surrounded by friends and neighbors who came to offer support. Richard sat on the other side of the room, with a cold, disdainful smile on his face. The prosecutor began presenting the evidence against Richard, revealing a network of criminal activities that included money laundering and extortion. Daniel was called to the stand to testify. He recounted his story in detail, from his initial partnership with Richard to the moment he discovered the truth and was forced to flee. As Daniel spoke, Laura felt a wave of pride. He was facing his fears and helping to bring justice. When Daniel finished, there was a tense silence in the courtroom. Richard, however, was not ready to give up. He began mocking Daniel, trying to discredit him. Daniel was always a failure. "He's making up this story to cover his own mistakes," Richard said with a tone of disdain. Laura couldn't stay silent. She stood up and with a firm voice defended Daniel. "Daniel is a brave man who faced his adversities and is here today to tell the truth. It's you, Richard, who is trying to hide your crimes." The judge called for silence in the court, but Laura's words had a strong impact. Her testimony and the strength of her conviction helped strengthen the case against Richard. After days of testimonies and presentation of evidence, the verdict finally arrived. Richard was found guilty on all charges. The courtroom erupted in applause, and Daniel felt a huge weight lifted off his shoulders. He turned to Laura and Megan, tears in his eyes. "We did it," he said, his voice choked. Laura hugged Daniel, feeling immense gratitude. Megan joined the embrace, and the three stood there, united in a moment that symbolized the end of a nightmare and the beginning of a new life. With Richard in prison, life began to stabilize again. Daniel continued working and attending therapy sessions, with Laura and Megan by his side every step of the way, offering unconditional support and love. One day, as they walked through the park, Daniel stopped and looked at Laura and Megan. "I never imagined I could find peace and happiness again, but you gave me that. I'm eternally grateful," he said with a sincere smile. Laura held Daniel's hand. "You deserve all the happiness, Daniel. We're here to build a future together." Megan, smiling, added, "And nothing can stop us now." The future was uncertain, but Laura, Daniel, and Megan knew that with love and support, they could overcome any obstacle. They were ready to continue their mission, transforming lives and spreading hope wherever they went. With Richard in prison, the lives of Laura, Daniel, and Megan entered a new phase of tranquility and reconstruction. The tensions diminished, and the community began to recover from the impact of Richard's crimes. The trio found comfort in their daily routine and in each other's support. Daniel continued his work at the small local business, earning respect and admiration from his colleagues. He was often seen talking to veterans and other vulnerable individuals, offering advice and support. Daniel's experience inspired many, and he became a beloved figure in the community. Laura, in turn, found new ways to help those in need. She began organizing community events to raise funds and resources for the homeless. Her compassion and determination were widely recognized, and she received several honors for her work. One day, Laura decided it was time to take a step further. She gathered Daniel and Megan in the living room, her eyes shining with excitement. "I have an idea," she said animatedly. "What if we open a community center to help homeless people and veterans like you, Daniel?" Daniel and Megan exchanged surprised but enthusiastic looks. "That would be amazing, Laura," Daniel replied. "We could offer shelter, food, and reintegration programs." Megan nodded, excited. "I could help with the administrative part and organize fundraising events. It would be a way to give back everything we've received." With the decision made, they began working on the project. They counted on the support of the community and various local organizations. In a short time, they secured a location for the community center and began renovations. The opening of the center was an emotional event. Friends, neighbors, and many who had been touched by Laura, Daniel, and Megan's story came to show their support. The community center was named House of Hope, a name that reflected the journey of all those involved. During the opening ceremony, Daniel gave a moving speech. "Life can knock us down in ways we never imagined, but with love, support, and determination, we can get back up again. This center is proof that redemption and hope are possible," he said, tears in his eyes. Laura, holding Daniel's hand, added, "Everyone deserves a second chance, and here we'll offer that to everyone who needs it." The community center quickly became a beacon for those seeking help. They offered everything from hot meals and shelter to rehabilitation programs and job opportunities. Laura, Daniel, and Megan were always present, working tirelessly to improve the lives of those who passed through. Michael, despite his slow recovery, also found a purpose at the center. He helped in the kitchen, preparing meals and talking to visitors. The experience of almost losing everything and then finding new meaning in life transformed him, and he wanted to share this new perspective with others. As time passed, the House of Hope became more than a shelter. It became a community where people could find support, friendship, and a chance to start over. The story of Laura, Daniel, Megan, and Michael continued to inspire many, and the community center grew, receiving donations and volunteers from all over the country. A year after the center's opening, Laura, Daniel, Megan, and Michael gathered for a celebratory dinner. The room was filled with laughter and animated conversations. They reflected on everything they had accomplished and the impact they were having. Who would have thought that a cold night and a decision to help a stranger would lead us here? Laura said, looking at Daniel. Daniel smiled, holding Laura's hand. You changed my life, Laura, and together, we changed the lives of many others. I'm eternally grateful. Megan, with a sparkle in her eyes, added, We're a family, and together we can face any challenge that comes our way. The future was uncertain, but Laura, Daniel, Megan, and Michael knew that with love and support, they could overcome any obstacle. They were ready to continue their mission, transforming lives and spreading hope wherever they went. The message of the House of Hope was clear. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption, and with compassion and determination, it's possible to transform lives. Laura, Daniel, Megan, and Michael proved that love and understanding are the most powerful forces in the world, capable of healing the deepest wounds and bringing light even in the darkest moments. And so, the journey of redemption and hope for Laura, Daniel, Megan, and Michael continued, inspiring generations and showing that together, we can build a better world.